Explain circular flow in a three-sector economy, that is household, government and firms. And it is more realistic and detailed because yes, we're generally trying to study with household and firms, but government is an essential part of any economy today, and so it is unrealistic to leave it out. So here we go. The arrows that you see, they show the flow of money throughout the economy. Now let's take firms. What do firms? They make payments as rent, wages, interest and profit to household to obtain factors of production, land, labor, capital, enterprise. So once again, what do the firms do? Firms want produce, and what helps production? They are borrowing services from the household sector as land, labor, capital, enterprise, and then it makes factor payments to them as rent, wages, interest and profit. Now what do the households do? The households take the income they get. They take the income that they get from selling these factors of production, and they use it for consumption purposes, for goods and services, for buying their goods and services. So for goods and services, they use the income that they have got for giving their factor services, for producing a commodity. They gave their land, perhaps labor, capital, enterprise. So whatever income is generated, the households have to consume, and they spend it on goods and services. And also they use these incomes to pay taxes to the government, or they save in the financial markets. So they pay taxes to the government from the income that they get, and they also try to save in the financial markets. Now what does the government do? The government, on its part, buys, that is purchases, goods and services. See, it has to do a lot of consumption expenditure for the people at large, for welfare purposes, for it spends on defense, for example, roads and bridges, etc. So it takes that money, which the revenue that it has collected from tax, so for buying goods and services. So either the tax money, or what do? They borrow from the deficit that they have, they cover from the financial markets. So the deficit that they have, they cover from the financial markets. That means if they want to purchase, their expenditure is much more, then they need to borrow much more than the revenue generated by taxes. Then they have to borrow from where? The financial markets. Now let's talk about the financial markets. What do? The financial markets provide money to the corporations for their investments. So they provide money for corporations to make investments, and this money that they have got, or the firms get, the corporation gets, they add to that firm gets from selling goods and services. So that is their firm's revenue, and thus the circular flow keeps on going. Isn't it so interesting? So what did you notice? That the market for factors of production, then you have the financial markets, and you have the market for goods and services. Okay, so once again, markets for factors of production, that money is exchanged and purchased for rent, the land, labor, capital and enterprise used in production. Financial markets are what? People who want to lend money, that is savers, interact with those who want to borrow money, that they are the borrowers. the corporations or whatever. In these markets, the supply and demand for loans determine the interest rate, which is the price you have to pay to get someone to lend you their money for a while. If it depends on their rate of interest. So it is the price you have to pay to get someone to lend you their money or for a while, because most government runs deficit. Now, deficit, that is, they are spending much more than what they're getting in tax revenues and have to borrow a lot of money. So government is also a major player in the financial market. And of course, they are market for goods and services that people and government buy the stuff the firms make. Is that right? So here we go. So a much more realistic, I must say, circular flow with that divides the economy not just into firms and household, but they bring in the government, and also if you can put financial markets, yes, they do. So just go through it 2 or 3 times, make this diagram and hear me once, and then you write it down. That's for your practice and for your homework. Is that right?